Hello everybody, this is Tim again here with another video, this time finally back with the commentary for Freddy vs. Jason. Now this will be nearly my last commentary for the Nightmare on Elm Street films. After this, all I got left is the remake pretty much. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and jump into this commentary. If you, just like all my other commentary videos, if you want to link up, I'm counting down from 3, 2, 1, pressing play now. Alright, let's get this baby going. I do like this opening here where it opens up with the like Nightmare on Elm Street theme music playing from the first film, and then it goes into like the Friday 13th theme, the or really good way to open it. I like this whole Freddy backstory thing right here. I've heard some people complain about this because the hardcore fans wouldn't really need it, but a film like Freddy vs. Jason is going to play to more than the hardcore audience, and so they do need to like fill those people in who may have missed all the other like Nightmare on Elm Street films and stuff like that. And there's really, it would have been cool to have like an opening montage of the Jason movies as well, but I know New Line didn't do it because they didn't own the rights to those movies, so they couldn't do it. But at the same time, though, I don't really think Jason, like, I love Jason as a character. Like, I personally, I love Freddy and Jason like equally, but really, Jason, like in terms of backstory and stuff, he ain't got that much going on. He's a mentally handicapped kid that drowned, came back to life for revenge, has been killing people ever since. That's pretty much it. Freddy Krueger has like this whole intricate backstory and everything, and it's also, of course, to set Freddy Krueger up as like the main driving force of the movie, because if you're going to do a Freddy versus Jason film, Freddy has to be the lead because he's the one with the charisma and he's the one who comes up with the master planning. Like Jason, he has no like ultimate motives or anything. He just wants to be left alone in the woods, and then if you enter his woods, he will kill you because he sees every human being as like the person who killed his mother and left him to drown. That's it. He's pretty much like a machine. He's the brutalizer. You know, he's just the brutal one of the three of Jason, Freddy, and Michael Myers. He just like breaks people in half and shit. But Freddy, though, he's the master planner and everything, though. He's the one with all the game plan going on. So he has to lead the movie. There's really no other way to do it. And so I'm fine with this like opening Freddy montage, and plus Jason does get opening as well. It's just not a montage, but it is an opening with him like killing a counselor and all that and everything. And of course we find out it's actually in like hell. I guess in this world, like hell is like a purgatory thing, because this movie pretty much picks up after Freddy's dead and Jason goes to hell, which is pretty cool to link the franchises up, and it kind of does make perfect sense in terms of timeline. Even though the timeline for like the Jason movies is like continuity wise like all over the place, this is pretty much as good as you can get it, because the Friday 13th movies are much more of a B movie series than the Nightmare on Elm Street, which at points is kind of a B movie series, but at the same time it's much more like closer to an A movie series with the really best entries like part 1 and 3 and New Nightmare. I'm not sure about Freddy's like fang teeth though. I don't really think you need it. But I mean, it doesn't really bother me that it's there. I like this close up though, going into like Jason's hockey mask. This movie had so many alternate scripts. At this point, most people have heard of all the different ones. It had so many alternate scripts and ideas for like what they wanted to do, because they just couldn't figure out what the hell to do with this movie. Because on one hand, you could just make a standard Freddy vs. Jason movie with Freddy and Jason fighting with the standard characters and all that, which is ultimately what I think they ended up doing. But at the same time, I think they probably had a bunch of different scripts because they wanted to make like this big grand epic movie, you know, like millions of dollars like movie in terms of budget and stuff, to where it could be like this big colossal blockbuster and all that, which this film was a big hit. But at the same time, though, I think they wanted to treat it more like a big blockbuster film and all that, so they were kind of torn in between stuff. Like, there were so many crazy ideas, and a lot of them were kind of crazier because they tried to incorporate like New Nightmare into the continuity, which you really didn't need to do. Like, I really like New Nightmare. In my opinion, New Nightmare is a masterpiece, and I think it's the second best Freddy Krueger movie, or movie featuring Freddy Krueger. But at the same time, though, you don't really need that film because it is its own thing. Like, really, if you're gonna do a Freddy vs. Jason movie, you got to pick up after Freddy's dead. But anyway, so they had all these different scripts and ideas, like Jason and Freddy like going after the Holy Grail or something, with Freddy like pissing in the Holy Grail. Then they had this other one where like Freddy Krueger was real, but Jason wasn't. And I guess they were going with that New Nightmare thing, where for the real demon Freddy or whatever was like manipulating somebody in real life who was a killer that the Jason movies were based off of. And they had a scene where like Jason was on trial in a courtroom and everything in the script. That idea is just stupid. But and then they had other ideas where Freddy and Jason were movie characters, and there was this chick with like psychic powers, this little girl or whatever whatever, a young girl, and she like brought them into reality, and then they wound up fighting each other. And then there was this other idea where Jason was like more like the straight up good guy, even more than he kind of is like the anti-hero in this version, where it's like Freddy's like got a cult or whatever who like worships him and wants to bring him into the real world, but with all his dream powers, which is kind of an interesting idea. But would work more as like a standard Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I think, because I think having like a cult or whatever and demonic leaders and all that, like kind of takes away from the Freddy and Jason aspect. But anyway, and so they like kill the girl's boyfriend, and she takes his heart and puts it inside Jason's body, who's in the lake or whatever, and it like brings him back to life, but with her boyfriend inhabiting his body or something, so he comes back good, and Jason's like saving the kids and actually fighting Freddy because of that. That makes Jason way too much of the hero, and it kind of undermines the character of Jason by making him like controlled by this good boy's heart and all that. Yeah, that idea's stupid. And then there's like this. There was the guy who did Jason Goes to Hell had an idea where it was like Nancy Thompson was like for some reason back to life. I don't remember why. I don't think he ever explained it. And it was like Tommy Jarvis back, and then I believe even Creighton Duke was back from Jason Goes to Hell. And Satan was like telling Freddy and Jason that only one of them can stay on Earth from now on. It's who's the better killer, and you got to try to kill this group of survivors or whatever, which was like Tommy Jarvis and Nancy and like Creighton Duke or whatever. And whoever killed them and managed to take them all out would get to stay on Earth as the reigning king champion. That idea might have worked in like a big B movie type fashion, and then of course Freddy and Jason would fight in the movie and all that, trying to kill Tommy Jarvis and Nancy and Creighton Duke and everything from Jason Goes to Hell. That idea could have worked in like a big B movie type fashion. That maybe could have worked. It's just like a big goofy blockbuster type fashion. But at the same time, I think something like that big and just kind of like bringing Satan into it and everything and going kind of crazier with it, I think would have maybe have lost some of the hardcore fans who kind of grew up with the franchises, and I think it would have like detracted from the original like first couple sequels in both series where they were more like down the earth and everything and less like fantastical and everything. Whenever you start going too crazy with something, you risk going into like too much of Looney Tune land. I do like this opening though; it's really great. With the Freddy vs. Jason gets like the slash mark through it. Yeah, they're really treating it like just like a higher budgeted like B movie type thing, but in a grounded way instead of an over the top way, like the whole Satan thing or whatever the idea that Adam Marcus had, which could have worked and could have possibly been fun. Um, I've heard some people have a problem with this movie because it's not like super scary. I think this film, well, first of all, Freddy was only really scary in maybe two movies, like the original, which is like an amazing film and easily the best of the series, and New Nightmare. Really, he's not really, he's intimidating in some of the others, but he's not really scary in any of the others. And Jason is just more cool than anything than really scary. I mean, if you want to see like really scary, like the first Hellraiser film is much more intense and even scarier than any of the any of the Jason movies, and probably any of the Freddy movies except for maybe the absolute first one. It still might be more intense than that first one, just in terms of like gruesomeness. But I think it's probably about equally as scary as maybe the original Nightmare on Elm Street, because the original Nightmare on Elm Street is pretty damn scary. But you got the chick from Ginger Snaps in here. And even the script for this one was originally had much more to it, and it was kind of like watered down slightly because they wanted to make it more condensed. I believe the original script like had Tommy Jarvis in it, and they actually had Jason Bateman, I believe, cast to play him. And originally he was going to be like some dude who was like hunting Jason or whatever. And I guess he was probably going to be in like the cops role in this, where he was going to explain like the history of Jason and everything, and help the kids out like fight against Jason and Freddy. And by the end they duke it out and all that. And I believe that the Catherine Isabel, who plays like the character Gib or whatever in this, was actually going to be like Tommy Jarvis' girlfriend in the original version of the script, or one of the original drafts. That would have been better, honestly. That would have been better, and it would have been cool to see Tommy Jarvis back again. I do feel like that is a mistake, not bringing Tommy Jarvis back into this film, at least him. It would have been cooler if they would have brought at least one main survivor, meaning Tommy Jarvis from the Jason films, and one main survivor from the Nightmare on Elm Street films, maybe like Alice or Alice's son Jacob, and have him played by like a new actor or something. You could have done that and still kept the new cast, but they want to wipe the slate clean, kind of, and just play this movie mostly to newer teens as well as like the old fans, throwing enough nods for the old fans, but mostly to the newer teens so they'll be able to follow it easier, where they won't have to spend like huge amounts of time doing backstory and stuff like that for older characters and everything who are showing back up because you've already got so much going on with Jason fighting Freddy and everything. I get it, but at the same time, it still would have been cool to at least have Tommy Jarvis. But at the same time, I get why he's not here. Another thing that the fans, of course, rip on is Kane Hodder isn't Jason. Now, I agree. By this point, Kane Hodder was Jason. That was the version of Jason that everyone knew and everyone pretty much accepted because he played him 4 times. But I don't hold that against the actor who plays Jason in this film. Like, truthfully, I think he does a good job for what he's asked to do, which is pretty much like a more Frankenstein version of Jason, who's got slightly like more sympathetic looking eyes to like kind of play into that sadness of Jason, where he was like a drowning victim and everything. I get it. But at the same time, though, it would have been much cooler to have Kane Hodder's much more aggressive, like rage-filled type Jason in this, just because he is Jason at this point. But the guy in the movie, King Kurzinger, he does a good, solid job for the Jason he's supposed to be. But he's nowhere near like my top Jason tier list or whatever. But because of the version that he's asked to play. But at the same time, though, I think he does do a good job here. But Robert Englund is great though, and he does outshine him in this movie. If it would have been Kane Hodder, it would have been much more even between the two. I think in terms of performance and everything, because Kane Hodder just has that rage filledness with Jason that he brought in those other 4 movies that would have made Jason seem even more like badass in this movie. But Jason does get some amazing kills, like when he bends the dude, of course, in the bed here in a minute, and like just stabbing him with the machete to the top, through his back or whatever first, and then bends him up in the bed. That is really cool. That is a cool death. The cast here is kind of weak. Like Monica Keena, she's kind of okay. I think she gets a little bit better towards the end with the "Welcome to My World" bitch line. That was good. Overall, I think she's kind of okay. Jason Ritter's pretty bad here in this movie, and the rest of the cast is just kind of like passable to like okay. Like I think the guy who plays the nerd, like Linderman or whatever, I think he's fine as like the token nerd. I think he does a good job for what he's supposed to be. And the guy who does the Jason Mewes like rip-off character, he's good. He's fine as the comedy relief as well. But the rest of them are just kind of like meh to like just kind of there. I am really surprised New Line Cinema never did a sequel to this movie. Like, I know the hard part for them was figuring out how to do it and everything, and also at the same time, like, trying to have some type of winner without really having a winner. Because no matter who you pick to win, you're going to piss off one fan base or the other. You can tell, though, that in this movie, they deliberately tried to make Freddy look good. Like, they're really going out of their way more than they're doing with Jason to try to make Freddy look cool. Which I get, he's the one who built their company, but at the same time, they're not trying. Um, um, as hard with Jason to make him look as cool when it comes to the fight scenes between the two. Like they're giving Freddy all the fancy moves and everything, and Jason they just treat as like the bulldozer type guy or whatever. Like they could have thrown in like maybe like a random like fancy move with Jason or whatever just to kind of spice it up to something that somebody didn't see coming. But they give Freddy like all the kicks and the elbow drops and everything, and wrestling type moves and everything that you really didn't see coming. I think depending on which fan base you come from, or whether you're a Freddy or a Jason fan, will probably depend on like how you feel about this movie in the end. I don't get people that hate this movie. Like this movie, I've went back and forth on Freddy vs. Jason so many times. Like when I've watched it and everything. I actually watched it recently before this commentary, just so I could get an idea about how I felt about it. Like I always, anybody who watches my channel knows I grade my movies from 1 to 4 stars. But yeah, in terms of Freddy vs. Jason, I used to like really like the movie, and then I went on a streak where I thought the movie was just good, not great. And then I went back to like really liking the movie. So I've been so back and forth with this Freddy vs. Jason movie. But watching it now recently, once I've gotten older, I've pretty much made up my mind about how I feel about it. I would give this movie a 3 out of 4. I think this is a good, fun, like action B movie horror flick. I do think it is fun. And that was and I it doesn't live up completely to its potential. Like I said, it would have been cool to at least have Tommy Jarvis back in this. But at the same time, though, this is This is about the best Freddy vs. Jason movie you could get because that is kind of a silly concept of Freddy and Jason like punching each other and fighting each other. So you're never going to get like some masterpiece of cinema. So the most you can get is like a fun movie. And this pretty much is about it, really. I mean, you could have done a little better or somewhat better, but this is a good effort. This is a good Freddy vs. Jason movie. It's just not a great or an amazing Freddy vs. Jason movie. But yeah, I never got people that hated this movie. Like when this movie came out, it was really popular, and then later they like developed this like cult of haters. Like most people do seem to like the movie, but then it started developing like this just cult like group of like haters that just really hate it. I'm not saying you're wrong if you hate it. I mean, if you hate it, you hate it. But I just don't really get it. I mean, because there's like way worse Freddy and Jason movies than this film, and this is easily an entertaining movie. I will agree, like the Jason being afraid of water thing or whatever, it kind of comes out of nowhere. Um, I could have accepted it if they would have explained it better because it's meant to be like a subconscious thing or whatever in the dream world that he's afraid of, and not something that he really fears in reality because he's a zombie or whatever. It's supposed to be like his childhood fear of drowning. I get it, but at the same time, though, the way it shows up in the movie is kind of clumsy. It's just like Jason knocks over one random pipe and he's like, "Oh no, water!" It's like really it just comes out of nowhere. So yeah, that was always kind of weak. So I do get that problem, but at the same time, though, that's like probably the biggest problem of the movie. Once you've moved past that, this is still a fun movie. Like I only have like a few like big problems with this. Like the cast is kind of weak, but at the same time, though, the cast in this doesn't really matter that much. It's a Freddy versus Jason movie. Freddy and Jason are the stars. I will agree with this. Like more of the story of this movie is Freddy centered, but at the same time, though, it has to be. Freddy needs to be the star here because you can't really build a type of story or whatever around Jason because that's not what Jason's character really is. That was kind of a weak jump scare when Freddy pops out and goes, ah! Like Robert Englund's performance in this is great, but that is kind of a weak jump scare because you know what's coming. I do like how they bring back the goat from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, which is kind of a funny nod. I actually saw this movie in theaters back in the day. I think I watched it on like the day after or the actual official day of release, which not the early premiere thing or whatever that sometimes they have before the movie comes out in certain theaters where you can watch it early. But I watched it on like the official day of release, and yeah, it was like the theater was packed and everybody pretty much had fun with the movie watching it in theaters. Some people were clearly rooting for Freddy and or wanted Freddy to win, I guess, and I saw a lot more like Jason fans like rooting for Jason though, honestly, than Freddy fans. I do like the effect of like the big Freddy shadow or whatever that comes to life and like stabs the kid. I like the dad's head just popping off too. That's pretty funny. They really overdo the blood in the movie. Like every time somebody gets killed, there's like a whole shitload of blood that sprays out. I know some people might not like that, but personally, I don't have a problem with it because, like I said, this is really like a big B movie monster mash type thing or whatever. So it didn't really bother me. Yeah, of course, Jason Ritter got in here because his dad was, of course, John Ritter, who was in Bride of Chucky, and this is directed by Ronnie Yu, who also did Bride of Chucky. Yeah, I forgot about this blonde-haired dude here who's in the mental asylum or whatever. The actor's name may be Brandon Fletcher, I think, who plays the character Mark. He does a good job. He's fine. I do hate the stupid fart scene he does when he presses his ass against the window or whatever to distract the guard at Weston Hills. I like that they brought back Weston Hills. Like, you can tell the writers were fans of the other movies, other Freddy and, or at least the other Nightmare movies. Not a lot of Jason callbacks in this, but a lot of like Freddy callbacks. And there are some Jason callbacks, like towards the end when they get to Crystal Lake and stuff, but for most of the movie, it is Freddy centered. I do think if they would have brought in Tommy Jarvis, it probably would have helped, like, even the movie out a little more as a Freddy and Jason movie. Monica Keena still looks pretty good in this movie. She was actually in that Snow White movie, I believe, that had Sigourney Weaver as the witch, which actually isn't too bad of a movie, and Sam Neill played the king. Yeah, she was pretty hot in that. I think she had black hair. I'm not sure if that's her natural hair or not. She always kind of had like a Brittany Murphy slightly thing going on or whatever. But yeah, she was pretty hot in that Wicked Snow White movie. Here she still looks good, but she also looks like she's clearly had some breast implants. I guess one thing about Monica Keena, she's very pretty, but in some of her later movies, like Night of the Demons remake and stuff, you can see she's had like Botox put in her face and like and collagen in her lips or whatever, and it's like you don't need that. She never needed that. She was a very pretty girl. So many women in Hollywood who are good looking do that because they want to try to force themselves to look younger when they don't even really need that, when they already look really good. Like, literally, no one who watches the movie will have a problem with it anyway. Like, there's so many silly things in terms of like marketing research and stuff like that in Hollywood that they think like audiences want that they really don't even care about. Got Kelly Rowland in this film as like Monica Keena's like, or Laurie's character's like best friend or whatever. I think she does like passable in the movie, but at the same time, her character's pretty much a bitch for like 90% of the movie. Because she keeps treating like the nerd guy like shit through most of the movie until basically he tells her off and that wins her over and they start to like, she starts to show like sexual interest in him or whatever. So it's like a complete 180. In a way, I kind of like that turn, but at the same time, she's kind of an asshole through most of the movie. I would say the characters in this do feel more like Friday the 13th characters than the Nightmare on Elm Street characters. Because you got Monica Keena trying to be the token virgin, which is hysterical. Because obviously that girl has probably like had sex a million times since before this movie. The soundtrack to this movie was also awesome with a lot of cool metal bands like Killswitch Engage and stuff. A lot of great stuff on the soundtrack. Here's the obligatory Bob Shay cameo as the principal. I actually really like this. It's cool that Bob Shay's still there. That does make me laugh when Freddy Krueger rips off her nose and says, "I got your nose." I've heard some people confused about that. Like, I've watched like one or two reviews for this movie where some people are like, "Wait, why didn't Freddy take her nose off? Why is her nose still there when she woke up in the real world?" I'm like, did people just forget like his lines of dialogue where he says, "I'm not strong enough to hurt anybody yet"? He's basically just still trying to kill people in the dreams, but he's still not strong enough yet. He doesn't have enough fear yet. Which at the same time is kind of like contradictory to like other films in the franchise or whatever. Like part four when he comes back, like there's literally only like one person afraid of him who's Kristen, and he still has enough like power at the beginning to kill like two or three people. So with any of these franchises that get like long in the tooth with lots of movies, there's always plot holes. You just have to roll with it and forgive the ones that don't bother you too much. It's this way with any franchise, not just long horror franchises, but any franchise that's been around for a long time. Like this movie is truly like a Nightmare on Elm Street 7, pretty much, since New Nightmare doesn't really count. This is really pretty much the sequel to Freddy's Dead, just say like in the present, at the time it came out. It is a sequel to Jason as well, see pretty much a sequel to Jason Goes to Hell, set before Jason X. But at the same time though, this is much more of a Freddy movie than a Jason movie, which doesn't really bother me because I don't really think you could do it the other way around. But you could probably have a little bit more of like a Jason tie in this movie to kind of even it out a little more. That's why I feel like they really should have brought Tommy Jarvis back. I always wonder is the van in this movie like the same van from Bride of Chucky? I'm honestly not sure. I don't remember exactly what the one in Bride of Chucky looked like. Since Ronnie, you directed both, I thought he might have put the same van in there just as a gag or something. Hanging at the rave party. Here's where it starts to feel more like a Jason movie. Of course, when he starts like taking everybody out at this rave, it's a pretty awesome massacre scene. Probably one of the best kill sequences in any Jason movie, to be honest. Yeah, I really don't get why they just didn't really hire Jason Mewes for this movie instead of just using like a clone or whatever or a rip-off version. That is kind of weird. I do think this movie is a great way for Robert Englund to like end his time as Freddy on this in the series or whatever. Because let's face it, eventually they're going to do a new reboot of Freddy Krueger, and eventually they will find somebody who can carry the series on, and they'll have like a new rebooted series or whatever that'll probably have some homages to the old movies and stuff like that. Robert Englund might have a cameo in a new movie or whatever, a new reboot or something. It would be, I think it'd be cool if they brought him in as like one of the parents, have him as like one of the people who torches Freddy, maybe like one of the parents or whatever. That would even be kind of cool. Or maybe you could even like put him in the John Saxon role. That would be kind of neat. And once again, if you hear any movement in the background, of course, that's just me adjusting myself. I think I've said that in most of my commentaries that I do because normally I have to sit in a certain seat and stuff when I do these. So if you hear anything, it's just because basically my ass gets tired. I do like how it kind of like hinting at like Kelly Rowland becoming like a couple with the Linderman character or whatever, who's the nerd. But at the same time, though, it is a bit unrealistic. But it is kind of a nice like turnaround for the characters in the movie. Of course, the goal with any Freddy vs. Jason movie is to be like a hybrid movie where you merge both together as like best you can. Of course, we are almost at the halfway point of this movie. Here we got like a corn and a corn silo, which kind of reminds me of Children of the Corn. Here they do another Freddy callback where his face comes through the wall or whatever, just like the original movie. I will say at this point they are kind of like overdoing the Freddy callbacks just a little bit to the other movies. Of course, here we have a pervert trying to sleep with this girl while she's drunk and passed out. Jason will have none of that. I do like that Jason beats Freddy to the kill. That's pretty cool. I like how that like starts the whole confrontation and fight off or whatever, because Jason's taking all his victims, because that's pretty much what the Jason movies are, like body count popcorn B movie fun flicks. And the Freddy movies are more about the story and the intricate like special effects and everything, which is kind of the differences between the two. I like it when Jason twists the dude's head around though, then pokes him and knocks him over, just like the dude was poking him. That is pretty funny. Now we have Flaming Jason. Run, fat man, run. Awesome sequence here with Jason just taking people out. Yeah, great sequence. That goalie was pissed about something. Great line, man. Like versus movies, a lot of them always seem to like get like mixed reviews or mixed reaction from fans too. I've pretty much enjoyed most of the versus movies I've seen. Like I liked Batman versus Superman, the ultimate cut of Batman versus Superman. I did like. Didn't love it, but I did really like it. I thought it was like a great blockbuster top flick, and I really liked like the Dawn of Justice stuff in that more than like the actual like middle part of the movie that became more like kind of messy and all that with the flash forwards to the future and everything. I really like the Doomsday Battle and stuff at the end. Like I had overall a great time with the ultimate cut of that movie, even with its flaws, and with what was that other one? Godzilla versus Kong. I actually really did enjoy. That was a fun one. I would say this might be my second favorite one after Godzilla versus Kong. Or no, I would say Batman versus Superman is probably my second favorite one after Godzilla versus Kong than this one. But I've pretty much enjoyed all three of these versus movies. Alien versus Predator is one that I kind of like as its own thing, like its own B movie, because it's not really like a high class Alien movie or even one of the higher class Predator movies. It is just kind of like a B movie. So overall, I do enjoy most of these like versus flicks. Of course, now we get the big reveal that the father is in on the town conspiracy. I do like it how they like connect it with Freddy's dead, where the town is like now come up with this big conspiracy to make people forget about Freddy, so no one will remember him because he feeds off fear. It's trying to take it back to that original Nightmare on Elm Street thing, which is kind of cool. At the same time, though, I'm not really sure you totally need it because it kind of distracts from the Freddy and Jason aspect a little bit. Here we have the death of the Mark character coming up. Yeah, Mark's about to bite the dust. Yeah, it's kind of a neat way to have Freddy and Jason end up fighting because Freddy has to get Jason out of the way, otherwise he's going to kill the whole friggin' town's population of teenagers. Yeah, I'm really surprised New Line Cinema never did a sequel to this. Like, I know that there was like some ideas they had, like Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, which I have the comic, and they probably just couldn't figure out what to do with it and didn't want to go through the painstaking process of trying to get it going, and they just wanted to hop on the remake train with both franchises, which didn't really work for either one. But at the same time, though, I really feel like it would have been better just to do a sequel. Like, you didn't really even need to bring in another person for them to fight to make it like a three-way fight. You could have just done a Freddy vs. Jason 2 and just had them fight again and just change the fights up and locations and stuff and all that. Like, maybe had like most of the movie take place in Crystal Lake, like how this one took mostly in Springwood. and have like Freddy's interaction with the Crystal Lake community and all that, and they're thinking it's Jason killing everybody when it's actually Freddy. Like you could do like the reversal between the two movies. Like there's a lot that you could do to have fun with just by doing a standard sequel. Like I don't really need like Michael Myers or something thrown in. Like that would have been cool, but at the same time I don't really have to have that. We're 52 minutes into the film. I do think the movie's starting to get a little bit long in the tooth without Freddy and Jason actually fighting yet. Like the guy who plays the Jason Mewes wannabe character, his lines are pretty funny, to be honest. Like he says some funny stuff. They got the dude from Night at the Roxbury as a cop here. When the cop like tells the history of Jason, they pretty much just go with the idea that Jason drowned and he's coming back to life to punish whoever returns to the camp or whatever. It's pretty much what they're going for. So they're pretty much going with the idea that Jason died as a boy and then came back to life, which is what most of the other later Friday 13 sequels started to go with. When they did the second movie, they were trying to still have a little bit of realism. The director was with trying to keep it a little somewhat grounded with Jason maybe having survived his drowning and all that. But then the later sequels just totally abandoned this idea. Which it's a B movie series, you can't think too hard about continuity, which is part of the fun, really. Hilarious line by Robert England. My mouth says yes, yes. Yeah, Robert's the master of charismatic one-liners, which is something we'll get to in the remake when they try to force some one-liners in with Jackie Earle Haley, who just does not have the on-screen charisma to deliver those one-liners. In one way, I am kind of glad I've almost finished the Elm Street commentaries, because truthfully, I only got the rest of this movie right now, and then the Nightmare remake left, and then I can move on to the Friday 13th movies. And that'll probably take a while, those Jason movies, because there are, well, 12 of them. But of course, eventually, after I get done with Jason, I'll be moving on to Michael Myers and all that. He's got to stop to smoke that joint. Some CGI blood there. I'm not the biggest fan of CGI. It just always looks kind of cartoony. Here's where we find out what happens to the people who have took too much hypnosil and basically they go into comas. Which, if they're in comas, makes you wonder, why doesn't Freddy just kill them? You know, why are they still alive but in comas? Freddy turns into the pot smoking caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland. I will say, like I've mentioned this already, it is taking a little bit for Freddy and Jason to like get a on-screen interaction together. It does seem like it's been a while in a movie called Freddy vs. Jason. The CGI caterpillar going down the dude's mouth is a little much. But I do like that they brought back that Freddy can possess people, like in part 2. Jason's about to electrocute the cop. I like how he throws the cop like right through the door though. Here comes the beginning of the showdown in the dream world. Jason has been put to sleep with a crapload of tranquilizers. That's one thing. Jason doesn't sleep, so therefore him and Freddy could really never meet unless he was drugged. I never cared too much for Jason like wearing a jacket. Like that never really appealed much to me. And they give him a jacket in the remake as well. It doesn't I don't like hate it, but I don't really care for it either. Like that's one thing about Jason. He knows that he's been tricked and that wasn't really his mother he's been talking to. He knows that it was Freddy doing some kind of illusion or whatever, puppeteering or whatever, some kind of fake version. Like Jason is simple-minded, but he's not stupid. Like he knows, he understands what's going on to a certain extent. Yeah, in the dream world, Freddy has like godlike strength and powers, so of course the fight isn't fair right now. And truthfully, the fight can never be absolutely fair because even in the real world, Jason is more powerful than Freddy. So pretty much, it is an uneven match, somewhat, regardless of which way you do it. But then again, so is like Batman versus Superman and other fights as well. Okay, the ping pong thing is going a little too crazy, or pinball machine thing. I do like how Freddy's like, why won't you die when he's fighting Jason, whatever, and trying to crush him basically, but then Jason just won't die. Which, of course, that's kind of the thing with Jason. He just basically never dies. Yeah, here's where the whole thing of Jason being afraid of like water comes out, like having like a suppressed fear of being afraid of water. Just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like he sees like barely a little puddle of fountain like coming by, and then he just like freaks out. It feels so like thrown in just to give Freddy like some edge over Jason in the dream world. Like they had to give him something. I could have went with it like I've said before if they would have like written it better to where it made more logical sense in the context of the movie, to where maybe Freddy discovered this fear by like going into Jason's mind or something. Or I don't see why they just didn't just automatically jump to like Freddy jumping into Jason's mind or whatever and him just giving him a nightmare of his drowning. Just like a replay of his drowning. Like you don't really need this whole like fear of water and everything. It would have been better and smoother if he would have just strictly just gave him a nightmare of his drowning, at least in my opinion. But they probably also wanted to show more of the humanity side of Jason because Jason is somewhat more inherently sympathetic as a character than Freddy. Because he was a drowned handicapped kid who drowned and mother died, was killed, whatever, even though she went crazy. Whereas Freddy's just pretty much pure evil. So it's like the movie wants you to somewhat root for Jason over Freddy, which I kind of get. But at the same time, I do think they pushed it a little far in terms of wanting you to root for Jason. I do like seeing this, like Jason's mental world inside of his head, like where he keeps all his bodies and everything. Like this is what he thinks about inside of his mind, where his bed is like in there and everything. And I guess if we had to like think about where this was, I guess it might have been like an old cabin or something he stayed in when he was at the campsite or something, or maybe it was his room, his actual home that we saw the Voorhees home in Jason Goes to Hell. At least part of it. Now here's where Laurie goes inside the dream world to pull Jason out. So Jason will be left at Crystal Lake, and also so I mean not pull Jason out, but pull Freddy out, and so him and Jason can fight at Crystal Lake. I've heard some people say like the kids like are like helping Jason, but the kids don't really help Jason. I mean she does kind of try. She does try to like help Jason right here when he's like drowning in the water. She does try to help him, but she doesn't succeed in helping him at all. Like Freddy still drowning him. Jason wakes up all on his own. The medicine just wears off. The girl, Lori, does nothing. That was a hilarious joke by Robert England. It's not my fault the bitch is dead on her feet. I do like how the kids that are like torturing Jason or whatever are putting like bags over his head and all that, which is probably supposed to be like a homage or whatever, a callback to the bag on the head from part two. See, there in this third act or whatever, they do throw in like a lot of like Jason callbacks and stuff to those movies, which is pretty cool. I don't like this whole joke gag or whatever where they're like, we gotta give Jason mouth to mouth. Like, this is kind of stupid. I do like the color scheme in this. Almost gives it like a comic book look. Where in Freddy's Dream World and stuff in the boiler room, we got like the red fire looking look, and in the real world or whatever with Jason near the lake and stuff, we got more of like a blue tint or whatever to represent water. Pretty cool kind of comic book type look for stuff in this movie. But yeah, right here, Jason wakes up all on his own. Lori does not save Jason or nothing. She doesn't even really help him. She tries, but she doesn't do anything. Jason wakes up completely 100% on his own. I love this Freddy like jump out of the water though when he goes into like his demon pissed off look. Kind of reminds me of New Nightmare. It's pretty cool. I will say now that I'm kind of watching this movie like straight through while I'm doing the commentary that it is probably a little maybe like I've said before already. I don't have a problem with this being more of a nightmare movie than a Jason movie, but at the same time though, it is probably a little bit too much of a Freddy movie over a Jason movie. Like it would have been better if they would have put a little bit more of a balance in there by adding in Tommy Jarvis. Now that I'm watching it like straight through here, it probably would have been better if they would have at least brought back Tommy Jarvis. But yeah, the whole mystery of like, did her father kill her mother? Like, it's really friggin' obvious that Freddy did it. So yeah, that mystery just kind of feels thrown in there just to give the kids something more to do. You really don't need that. And I guess it's also in there to kind of give Laurie the character more of a personal connection to Freddy. And I also don't think you really need that. Like him just trying to kill her, I think that's enough personal connection. You don't really need to throw in the fact that he killed her mom. That's to make Freddy even more of like the central villain in the movie, but you don't really need that because he already is the central villain. You don't really need all that killing the mother and stuff. It's just extra story that's just not needed in the movie. Freddy basically sexually assaults the main girl here with his glove between her legs. That's to kind of tie back into that whole child molester origin story for Freddy and subtext that they wound up leaving in the movies, but they didn't go too far with it until the remake. Like I like Freddy and Jason pretty much equally, but in terms of who is the better character, Freddy is a somewhat better character than Jason because of the whole dream thing and his mythology and all that. But Jason is cooler though in terms of his hockey mask look and everything. Jason kicks Freddy's ass right here. And now that they're in the real world, pretty much demolishes him by taking him to these windows. I still don't really like the whole Frankenstein movements of Jason and all that. I prefer the way that Kane did it, but the guy who's doing it here in this version of Jason, I still think is good. But it is one of the weakest versions of Jason out of all the movies. I would still put it above the part two Jason, which even though I think the sack is creepy, that Jason is pretty much just regular average killer Jason. There's not a lot to that version. At least not until the climax when you get to see more of how his mental state works when Jenny confuses him by making him think that she's his mom come back to life. It's sad that Linderman bleeds to death. That nerd was actually likable. Now that I think about it, he's probably the most likable character in the cast, because he goes through all this and gets treated like crap at the beginning, finally finds love in the girl that was treating him like crap, and then he ends up dying. Monica Keena's speech right here, where she calls Freddy a faggot, is actually kind of funny. Very un PC, of course, but that's something that somebody would say to somebody, though, to piss them off, just to get them going. I do like the joke where she says, "You're not even scary," but when she starts going, "You're not even scary," she starts overdoing it, and that's when it loses me. At this point in the movie, the kids are the ones that are left are rooting for Jason to take out Freddy, because Freddy is the main villain of the movie, which makes sense because he's the bigger threat, because he can come at you in your dreams and get you anywhere. You can try to run away from Jason, and maybe he will follow you if he's able to. But if you're able to get countries away, I don't see Jason may go to Afghanistan to kill you, but I don't really think so. I mean, farthest he might go is maybe New York or Los Angeles, unless it's a personal vengeance thing. Right now, the fight looks about even. Freddy is getting him more hits, but Jason is holding him back and holding his own with his strength and durability. So the fight's pretty much about even at this point in terms of the movie. Freddy starts to get the upper hand though when he starts to use the environment around him, which is really all he can do, because one-on-one fight, Jason would eventually overpower him. I mean, it is a big coincidence though that there's all these air tanks and everything hanging around this place, but they had to give something for Freddy to use his artillery to fight against Jason. Otherwise, it would just be a kind of a boring fight, which no fan really wants, regardless of what side you're on. What matters most is the fight being good, or the battle. Yeah, Jason is a bit too slow in this movie, in terms of his movements. If Jason got pierced into the ground or whatever by these poles, I don't see him just like kind of stopping and sitting there and letting the thing hit him like that many times. I think he probably would like hold his hand out and just stop the thing and then start like pulling the wire or barb or whatever like out of his body. I like how Freddy's like obviously scared of Jason. Freddy's starting to beat up Jason more. At this point, Freddy's kind of slightly winning the fight. Now they've both been hit onto the dock, and I like how they show Jason's like superiority in the real world because he gets up much faster and quicker because he has like more strength and durability in reality than Freddy does. Freddy's starting to get tired. I like how they play that up. Like you can see Freddy visibly getting tired at this point. At this point, Freddy's like kicking Jason's ass. And then he stabs him in the eyeballs and then stabs him in the chest. I don't like how they make it seem like Jason is like mostly limited by his machete weapon. Like it would have been cool if Jason would have like tried to kick Freddy or something when he was like being took down on the dock and all that. Like he takes Jason down maybe a little bit too easy. It would have been cooler if Jason would have fought back just a little bit more. Now the chick, Lori, set the dock on fire, and at that point, Freddy and Jason were both standing up and in a grapple match with each other, and both had a hold of each other. Once Jason rips Freddy's arm off, though, the fight is pretty much over. The girl, like setting the dock on fire and all that, is purposely in there to distract Freddy for 1 second or whatever to give Jason an advantage for that minute because they wanted it to be to where Freddy fans could say, well, maybe Freddy would have won the fight if he wasn't distracted for those 2 seconds. But truthfully, with Jason being so much stronger than Freddy and Freddy getting visibly tired, with them both being in a grapple match with each other, like Jason still should have been able to overpower him and still should have been able to just like tear his arm off in one move, to be honest. But at the same time, they have to please both sets of fans, so I don't really have a problem with it. But also, I still do think that Jason would have logically he should have still overpowered Freddy with or without the dock being set on fire. Just because he's so much stronger than Freddy in the real world. Like Freddy is still durable and strong in the real world, but he's not on the level of Jason. Of course, we got the fake out coming up here where you think it's Jason because he's got the machete, but then the camera goes upward and we find out it's Freddy. Kind of a clever fake out, but at the same time, though, Jason is stronger and more durable than Freddy, so he probably would have been the first out of the lake. Unless, of course, Jason was trying to catch Freddy by surprise, which shows that Jason has some cleverness to him, which is good. The gloved arm through the back and out the chest is probably the coolest move in the movie between Freddy and Jason. My second favorite would probably be Freddy gouging Jason in the eyes. But that glove through the back and through the chest, though, is pretty badass. That's pretty much the end of the fight right there. Like, Jason has won at that point in terms of the fight. In terms of, like, fighting, he's won the fight. Like, there's nothing Freddy can do. I mean, what's he going? He's going to nibble on Jason's fingers or something. I mean, he has one friggin' arm and another arm through his chest. I mean, he's done at that point. I mean, Laurie chopping his head off is almost like completely incidental. But of course, Laurie chopping his head off is just thrown in there so you can say, well, Jason didn't technically get the final blow on Freddy, even though Freddy was obviously going to die from that arm to the chest. There's no way he could live through that. Like, what's he going to do? Like, try to crawl his way back to Springwood? I mean, he's done. And the way like Jason like chooses to sink down in the water and let the kids go, because Jason has took more damage in other movies than what he has in this movie, even though he did take a lot here. He would have kept coming after the kids if he wanted to, but at least according to the writers, their idea was that because she tried to help him in the dream world or whatever from drowning for a second, that it makes Jason Siri remind him of his mother or whatever, who was like the only woman that ever tried to help him and stuff. So he doesn't want to kill her. So he has a soft spot for that. Like, yeah, Jason's meant to be like the anti-hero of this movie. And I'm kind of 50-50 on that. On one hand, I don't mind it. It doesn't really bother me because Freddy is going to be the pure evil one. But, and when you got two evil people, you got to have one with a certain more kind of likability for the audience and all that, for the mainstream audience. But at the same time, though, as like a hardcore fan of both, part of me would just like to see just a movie with like just two pure evil people fighting. And yeah, Jason comes back out of the dock or water or whatever carrying Freddy's head. I've heard some people theorize maybe this is a dream, but Jason doesn't sleep, so it can't really be a dream. But anyway, and yeah, he carries Freddy's head, which winks and laughs, which I've heard some people like theorize like what this wink's supposed to mean for so many years and all that. Truthfully, I don't think the wink means anything. The wink was actually like a last minute addition by Bob Shea, who wanted like a sign that Freddy would be back or whatever, so it wouldn't be so definitive that Jason won. That was like a last minute thing that was thrown in for the movie. And I agree it needs to be there because having Jason as like so much of the clear cut winner would be a little bit too much. But in terms of the fight, Jason does win the fight. He is the winner. But he doesn't kill Freddy. Freddy's going to come back because Freddy can't die and Jason can't die. So really, there is no actual winner because, I mean, if you have to pick a winner, it has to be Jason because he does win the fight. But truthfully, there is no real winner because neither one of them can die. So ultimately, that's why a fight is also kind of pointless. But at the same time, though, it's still fun. So yeah, all in all, I'd give this a 3 out of 4. This is a good movie that I think is good fun. It's definitely worth watching. I don't totally like the fact that Jason is like an anti-hero in the movie, but I've come to kind of get over it at this point. And also, when you've got two evil characters who are just when you had two evil characters who are pure evil fighting, you would the mainstream audience, not just the hardcore fans, but these types of movies also have to appeal to the mainstream audience. Wouldn't really have somebody to actually root for, so they wanted you to root for Jason because he's inherently the more sympathetic one. Wouldn't really make sense for them to try to get you to root for Freddy. So I get it, and I'm at this point in my life since the movie's come out, I'm fine with it as Jason as an anti-hero. So yeah, but all in all, how do I feel about it? Good movie. Not bad, good flick. I'd give it a solid 3 out of 4. Definitely worth watching. It's a fun movie, and it's a great way for Robert Englund to go out as Freddy Krueger. So thank you guys for watching, and I shall eventually see you again with a commentary for the remake whenever I get around to it, or whatever video I decide to do before then. So thank you guys for listening, and I will see you again with the next video.